Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Do you have your materials? So for today's class, you would want to have a pencil. It can be mechanical or just a normal pencil, and a pen for fine lining, and two brushes, any kind of paint brushes. One should be a very fine tip for details, and another one can be a bigger brush. So these are the materials that we will need for today. And for my paper, I made an outline with a masking tape. This is just so that my drawing will be framed at the end. So it's okay if you don't do this. Your drawing will not have a defined edge, and that is perfectly fine too. And you can also have some paper towel for wiping extra water if you need it, and uh, uh, a little cup of water to clean your brush with, and a surface for you to mix your watercolor. So for me, I'm just using a little piece of paper here that I will be able to use to test out the colors. I'm just gonna give you guys a second to collect these materials if you need.
Watercolor.
If everyone has these materials, I will begin the class. So for today's drawing, we will be painting a scene from a cartoon movie. So if you want to take a picture, you can do it right now. So this picture is quite vibrant and will translate very well to watercolor. Okay, I will now set the.
Oh,
Okay.
I missed the picture.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, 1 second. I take a picture first. Okay. Thank you.
Does everyone have a picture of this?
Okay.
Okay. We will start. So first, we will be making a rough outline of our drawing using a pencil. I'm using a mechanical pencil, which is much thinner, which allows me more control. So first, I'm going to draw just a basic rough sketch. This doesn't have to be clean or any accurate to the final piece, but just try your best to outline all of the big features. So first I will just mark where the sky and the ground will meet. So this is the line I've determined for that. And then we want to mark in where the characters will be on this page. So first we will be marking the center, the big animal in this, the big creature in the center. So you can very easily do this by breaking the character down into simpler shapes. So the character is very round. So because of that, we will just be drawing a circle for his rough guidelines. So I have an egg shape right here for the creature. And then the belly is circular. So I will just mark that in. And then we will use another oval shape for his arm. Just like this. So I use an oval bean shape for his arm. And then for his other arm, I will use a small circle like this. Then we can draw in his claws that he is using to grasp this umbrella. So make a curve down here for the handle of the umbrella. And then make a thin line upwards and draw the main. So just to put it, to make it more simple, you can just draw a round edge for the bottom of the umbrella. I will fix some of the line mistakes I've made. So for the bottom of the umbrella, and then another rounded shape for the top. And then you can start going in and drawing the arches that on the side of the umbrella. And then connecting the points to the center, but make sure to connect it like a curve so you can capture the rounded shape of the umbrella. So it's curved, following the shape of the umbrella like that. Then I will start going in and drawing the details of this character. The character has a leaf on his head. So to mark that, simply draw an oval. And after you have the oval, you can start adding in the details. So you always work from bigger, simple shapes down to the details. And then the stem of the leaf. And then we can draw in his ears, which is a triangular shape, a very long triangle. So we will just draw a triangle here and another triangle here. The triangles have rounded edges. And then connect it back to the character. Make any necessary adjustments that you see fit. And I will just make the ears a little shorter. That is an adjustment that I will be making. And after this, we can move on to his facial features. His nose is at the center of his head. It is covered, half of it is covered by the leaf. I'll just be drawing a little round shape for it. And then draw a circle for the eyes. The left eye is blocked by the leaf, so make sure to show that. Then a little circle on the inside, that is his pupil. And then we can draw his whiskers. So these are little dots under his nose, like that. And there are 2 whiskers on each side of his face. So just draw that in. Drawing in his claws, and then his mouth, which is near, just a little bit on top of his belly, the white part of his belly. And then we can start drawing in the details on his belly, which is this arrow-like shape. So you can draw that by drawing two triangles and connecting them. Like this. And then there are 3 more below that. So I will draw that in as well.
Thì tiếp theo thì công nhận mỏng này.
And the rest of his body down here is blocked by grass. So we also want to show that. So I will be just drawing blades of grass down here. That is covering him. And then we can move on to the 2 little kids.
Too fast. Can I
Okay.
slow down a little bit, please?
Okay. You guys can draw in this character. So if you're ready to move on, you can first mark the locations of the 2 kids. So one is directly behind our creature here. So we can just draw in her head. using a circle, and then we can draw in the other kid's head using a circle as well. And now we have their locations down. First, we will be making the curved shape of their head. So just draw in a line down for the side of their face, and then a round cheek, and then you have their face down. After that, draw in the line for her hair. And then draw a big circle around her head for the hat. After you have their face down, the character's face down, you can start drawing in her features. So draw a upside down triangle for her mouth, but don't draw it fully because she is also covered up by very tall grass. And then you can draw just a line, just a vertical line down for her nose. And then 2 dots as pupils with a curved shape over their eyes. That is the top of their eyes. And then you can draw another curved shape for her eyebrows. Like that. And then you can draw a square shape, just a square shape towards the side of her face. That is her sleeves. And then just a thinner shape for her arms. Make sure to draw some blade of grass covering it up. And then you can follow the same step for the other kid. Using the circle as your guideline, draw a line down the top of the circle. So like here, this is where the hat will be. And just draw another half circle shape. And now you have the basic outline for the hat. Draw a line up on either sides and connect them. And you have the hat. Going down from the hat, you can start drawing in her hair. And add a little circle on the side of her head for her ears. And then you can draw a square shape for her hairs. Then you can draw in the rest of her face. Make sure to draw her very large cheeks, which is a defining feature for this character. Draw her nose, which is in the center to the left of her face, and it is just a dot. From there, you can draw in her two eyes. Larger dots of her with a draw her eyebrows, and then draw her mouth, which is an arrow shape, and it's very close to it's very low on her face. So like this. Her body is very tiny. So just draw a square shape extending down from her head. And another one inside of it. So you have the shape of her skirt, her dress. So only her right leg is visible. And to draw it, just draw a oval shape. And another round shape on the bottom, that is her feet. You can also draw in blades of grass for areas of the character that we cannot see. So we can use blades of grass to hide the parts that are not visible to us. And then for her arm, just go from her cheek, draw a circular shape, and then draw another circular shape, which is her forearm. And then you can draw in the hands and the fingers at the end of her arm. This little character right beside her, this little animal, it's very simple shapes. So just draw a half circle by her feet, and then two triangle ears, and then two circles with dots as pupils. I will give you all a minute to finish with the characters. If you're done this stage, you can start on the second stage, which is just using a pen, go over the lines you've created, make sure to not be very messy, since this will be the final inking of the drawing. So try to be careful, go through your lines, see which ones are important and which ones you can just erase later on. Try to capture any necessary details. And if your fine lining looks kind of messy, it is totally fine. After we go through with the watercolor and actually be able to see the form, then it will look better than the fine lining stage. So I will go in with my pen and start lining everything. Be careful and make sure to use continuous lines and not broken lines that you usually would use for sketching. If you use broken lines to draw a line, it will look messy than if you just take it slow and draw a continuous line. So that is what we want to go for. Make sure to draw in the blades of grass and try not to make it overlap with your character. Try your best to capture details like furs, especially around his ears. You can always use your pencil to make adjustments before you fine line it. draw in any details that were left out during the sketch stage, like the lines on the leaf that is covering his head. Draw that in with your pen. Keep lining your drawing. If you make any mistakes, it is totally fine. Lining is pretty difficult to get the hang of at first. So we can always cover it up during the watercolor stage. I'm also going to fine line the grass that is covering our character, but I won't do any of the other grass as those will be created using watercolor. As you see, I am fixing some of the mistakes I was making during the sketch stage because I'm not finelining exactly what I drew before, and that is totally okay. That is what the sketch is for, to give a general idea of what the drawing will look like before you actually go in with your shading, your fine lining, or your painting. It's always good to fine line your drawing before you color it with either paint, watercolor, or pencil crayons, because then you have a clear outline for you to color with. Keep going with the fine lining. If it looks messy, that is totally fine, because a lot of people who use watercolor purposely draw messy for their drawings to create their desired style. It's all up to personal preference. You may like your drawings to be more messy, more expressive, or you like it to be clean with very clean lines. All of these are okay. Because I only did the big shape for this before, I only have a box for the sleeves, and I didn't draw in the folds of the sleeves. So I will be adding that now. It's much easier to fine line those kind of details instead of drawing it in during the sketch stage. When you get too detailed in the sketch stage, it could make things just more difficult and more messy later on. So it's important to know what details you should capture. I will give you guys more time to line it, but if you are finished or close to finishing, just wait for it to dry some more before going in with your eraser to erase. You might want to erase right away to see what it looks like, but that could cause the ink to smear and we don't want that. So it's always safer to just let it dry. You can, however, start erasing the parts that you drew at the earliest, because those already had time to dry while you were still fine lining. So I will go ahead and erase the center character since I started with him. I can now go in to fill in the parts that I missed. Erase as cleanly as you can. If you have finished this stage, you can start preparing for the watercolor. So the first thing you want to do is just wet the brush. So I will just set my brushes aside for now. Make sure they're clean. and open up your watercolors. You might not have a very big range of colors, or you might, but we will be trying our best to mix these colors. So it's always good to have an extra piece of paper on the side that you can use to test out your colors to see if it matches with the reference, and if all of the colors you picked goes well together. So I will be doing that. If you're not on this step yet, it is totally fine. I believe this is being recorded, so you can always pull up the recording to finish the drawing. Sometimes it might be helpful to just go over your page with some clean water first. That might help the colors spread more and be more even when you start coloring it. So I will be doing that. I did not get color yet. This is just the brush is already stained like this. So I will just use some water to cover up the page.
Just water the empty part, right? Not the pictures. Just water the outside white area, right?
Yeah, for now, yes. Since we always want to start with the big colors first, and the two main colors on our page is blue for the sky and green for the grass. I'm being very careful around my ink because I do not want to smudge any of the ink just yet, just in case that it is not completely dry. I will just try to avoid it. It's best to be safe than have your ink smudge. But after I've done that, I am going to start mixing the colors. So the green is a very vibrant green, but we always want to just see if the color is right. I think this is a very nice green, but it might be too yellow. So I might just add a little more. If you don't have a wide selection of colors, you can always add some blue to it to make it cooler. So I will do that. Add some blue to make it a cooler tone that fits better. But if you do have the right colors right away, then go ahead and use it. But just remember, the first wash of your watercolor should be light. So use water, dilute the colors, because we always want to start painting lightly and then working our way to darker parts. Because if we start with darks right away, the colors are going to be, you won't be able to change them anymore. But with lighter colors, there's more room for you to add some different colors or just shade. So it's always safer to go in with lighter colors.
Win 我可唔可以遲啲先 call 你？或者 OK，拜拜。
So just a very light layer of green, bright green, and try not just go around the characters, and also try not to paint into the sky as well. Do your best to avoid the characters. Dip your brush in water whenever the colors are no longer spreading easily. So now that I'm certain I like this color, I can just go in with a darker wash of color this time. If you see patches of colors that you don't like, it's very helpful to just grab out your paper towel and dab it to remove the extra color. After this, I will be switching to the blue. So wash your brush if you are using the same one. And just fill the sky with your blue. Make sure your blue and your green, they work well together and they look harmonious beside each other. So try to match it to the reference. It is okay. It is completely okay if the shade is a little different. After that, we will leave these two areas of paint, of watercolor, to dry. You can now switch to a smaller brush. And find the colors for the character. So the character is very gray, but my gray is too light, so I will make it darker. I will start coloring in the character. It is fine if it is light, because we do want to be safe and not go too dark at the start, because you can always make the colors darker, but you can't make it lighter. I'm going to leave the belly, but I will be coloring in the patterns, because the patterns are the same color. If it's ever too much color, just dab it with your paper towel. I'm also avoiding the eyes because the eyes are quite bright, are completely white. So we want to leave that open. So these characters have quite defined shadow lines. So it's very easy for us to just separate the shadow. I will keep painting this area, making it darker every time. I will now use a yellowish color, very light, to go onto the belly. And I will be using a darker color to mark the shadow, but try not to, when making shadow, try not to just add black to a color to make that the shadow. Sometimes there's a tint to the shadow that reflects its surroundings. So in this case, the shadow is quite blue. So we want to show that for it to look more realistic. So you can always just add a bit of blue to your color to create that bluish tint. So my color here is quite dark. So I will use the paper towel to just wipe it down so I can continue. with the shadow. I will continue with the same color down the belly. And then I will continue to add layers of this color to make it darker, so it is more like the original. And now the shadow appears to be at its final shade. So I will not go any darker. And I will add it to other parts of the character, like it's his left arm and his ear. I will darken the character itself. It's all about just using layers and layers to work up to the original color instead of just going right away and using that color, because that will make it very easy for you to make mistakes. Although if there are small parts of color that you can just go in right away, for example, this very little area for the nose, you can just go in
Excuse
with
me,
a dark
Song.
color. Hi, yes.
Can you repeat what color you're using for that
The belly?
character? Yeah, I mean the
The
oh, the gray part. What color you
Oh,
use to make it gray?
the gray part. I
Yeah.
am so like for the shadow,
For the light color first, and then
the light color.
Yeah.
Light color, I'm just using a regular gray color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regular
So
gray, and then
if you don't have the exact shade, like if your color is a little too warm, you can add some blue to it. But if you want to make it warmer, you can add some yellow or orange color to it. So it just adjusts, add different colors to your gray to see which one will make the best color. It's all about experimenting with your colors. It's pretty difficult to get it exactly right.
yeah.
My colors are quite different from what I'm looking at screen right now too. But
Okay.
I'm just trying my best. Just try your best
Okay.
to
Okay.
get it to look like it.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm just darkening it some more. And then I will move on to the belly part. We are working a little bit fast here because usually you want the separate colors to dry. You want to make sure they're drying so they don't bleed into each other. But for the sake of time, we will just work like this, work at the same time. It will still look good. You can still get a very nice result with it, so don't worry. For the shadow, I will just add some of my orange belly color to my dark gray or black and just go in like this. So now that you can see this part of the shadow looks very different from the top part of the shadow. One is much more brown and one is much more gray and blue. If it's ever too dark, go in with the paper towel and wipe it down. After this, I'm just gonna quickly fill in the colors for the little kids. You can figure out the colors by yourself later on as well by following the video, because I do want to get to the grass parts. So I'm just going to use a yellow, a regular yellow for the kids' sleeves, and then use a more orangish yellow for the smaller kids' hat. If this is too vibrant, I will just dab it and it's good. Also, for her legs, missed the part here. And then I'll just mix a skin color for them. Just use orange and yellow and a little bit of red to make this peachy color. That will go right over character. Sometimes your colors will cover up the lining that you spend so much effort doing. It is fine. You can always go over with your pen and reline the characters if you like. If it doesn't bother you that much, it is totally fine. I won't use black to fill in her hair. This part, since it is very detailed, you don't have to add as much water to the watercolor because you are not covering as much surface area as before. And this will give you more control if the watercolor is not watery and spreads easily. So and the little kid's hair is brown. I will use some brown here. I will not add shadow to them like I did the big character. You can always do that afterwards. So I will not do that just yet. I'm just gonna quickly block in the patches of colors. Just for the sake of time. Just being careful with your fine tip. this color is much too bright, just use your paper towel, blot it in. And if you really do not like the color that you're seeing, you can always wash your brush so it's clean and just go over it with clean water. Since if you just applied the color, it can come off really easily if you just put water over it and make it watery again, and then wipe, and then it gets lighter. So what I do want to get to for this drawing is the grass. Take your big brush again. This is important part, so if you are drawing something else right now, you can just leave that for now and just take your brush to draw in the grass. So there are patches of grass. So you can see they don't add the detail for every strand of grass, but you can see the pattern of the grass by the patches of different colors. So this part is lighter, so we're just going to assume that this grass is in front because it is getting the sunlight, and the ones behind are getting darker because the grass on the front is blocking the light, that kind of thing. So we'll just draw in the shadow, the darker parts of the grass, by using a greenish blue color, the shadowy parts. Blue, although this color may be a little too blue, so I'm just going to add some orange to it. And just try it out on a little paper. This is a little too orange, so we won't use that. But if we add more green to it, that looks more like it. So this is the green that I will be going for. I will be matching it to this later on. So just use your color and just go through it, coloring in the patches of grass that you see. We're using the big brush because this is not the detailed part yet. Try your best to avoid the character. And if you see a color that you don't like, use a water brush and just brush it away. Try your best with the precision, and just, you can be messy for this part. Since all the grass is different, there's no set way for you to draw them. So this part behind the creature is clearly darker because the creature here is covering up the sunlight. So there are parts like this that is very obvious that there are shadows. So you can just draw that in. Adjusting the colors as you go. If you're not happy with it, change it. It is easier to use a less watered brush to draw in your details. But when you're covering bigger areas, you want to use more water so the watercolor doesn't seem dried out, and then you can spread it over a larger area. So now that I have the general area of the grass blotted out, you should now move on to a smaller brush. Use a smaller brush to add more details and to more properly separate our ground from our sky, as they are quite similar right now. Because I'm using green right now, I will just coloring the leaf that is on the creature. And I will continue to add more detail to these areas. And there is this big patch of grass that is right beside our character here. We want to draw that in. So just we're not drawing in the singular blades of grasses right now, because it is important to get the colors for a general area right first. So colors, when there are shadows, so imagine you're just walking around at night. You won't be able to see that many colors because there's no light. And that's why when you look at the shadows, they are much less saturated in terms of color than the parts that are bright. The parts that are bright are vibrant, while the parts that are in the shadow usually become much darker and more dull. So you can do that for these parts, making the brighter parts vibrant, making the darker parts less colorful. You can do that by adding some grayish or blackish tones to it. I'm adding a little black to this part, to his shadow, so it appears more muted and dark. And I will do the same for all the other shadow parts, like under this girl's arm. You can also start just making these leaves like shapes. So just dabbing your brush down to make this leaf effect. So these shadows are all created just by adding black to the green. but don't add too much. Then it will just appear out of place with the drawing. So just try to control it. Whenever you have a color you truly don't like, just go in with a brush that has water and just wipe it out. So starting out with more water, with more watery watercolor, and then just working with less water as you go along. Once you get to the details, there should be less water, so you have more control. We are unfortunately running out of time. So this is a miscalculation on my behalf. I will finish this painting with you guys next week. But we'll try to do as much as we can with the time left. Just add, using a darker color, add the petals down here. If you would like, you guys can show me, open your cameras and show me what you have so far. And maybe I could give you some tips. Just try your very best with the colors. Colors are very hard to get the hang of at first. I'm just using very dark green color with black added to make it even darker. So instead of just using a darker green that you can find, add black, add darker tones, like add black, brown, gray tones to the color so that it actually looks like a darker shadowed version of your color instead of a completely different color. So I'm just adding black to the green that I was using. So if you want, you can show me your drawing.
You see
Oh,
it?
wow. Yes, Angela, that is very good. It is, I can't see the details of it, but I can see that you have all of the general colors very accurate. That looks even more accurate than mine.
No.
I really like your Estella. Estella,
Yeah.
the next step for you is just to add more layers, because you have all the right colors. It's just muted like mine. All you have to do is just add more colors. It takes time, but what you have is really good.
Thank you.
So you can work on this outside of class on your own if you like, but we will be continuing with this next week. So hopefully finish it off and make it nice.